John of the Eye Patch, Chapter 25. You can't tell anyone. John returned home, worried he hadn't done enough to help his friends on the Dragon of Plunder. They were going to get some supplies from the shipwrecks, but not enough to get off the island. He changed out of his pirate costume and he trudged downstairs. What could I get that was exotic? What could I get that would be valuable to more? He looked around the house. He saw framed pictures of him and his dad and his grandparents. He saw an antique end table. If John couldn't bring a person through time, he doubted he could bring something as heavy as furniture. He looked at a battery-powered wall clock, home electronics. No, those all broke the rules that his mom had made. No future technology. He saw crystal vases with plastic flowers. John remembered something about European settlers buying New York with plastic beads. But more already had European things. This is going to be harder than expected, John thought. John wrote on the whiteboard, riding bikes. The storyteller. Yes, he thought, the storyteller has to have something interesting. Out in the backyard, he saw Alyssa working on her robot. She was bolting something onto one of the robot's arms. Hey, Alyssa, John said. Oh, hiya, Johnny boy. She left the parts in the driveway, and she skipped over to the waist-high fence between their driveways. Did you see my new catcher mitt? I made it myself, John. You made that? John stared at what appeared to be a baseball mitt made of coiled wire. Yep. Thought you knew. I made most of Robbie myself, except for the parts my dad did, which is probably about half. Even the metal? Did you shape the metal too? An idea formed in John's mind. Maybe they could make the axle for the ship's wheel. He wouldn't have to leave Blackbird stranded at all. They could make it, and he could take it back. Why'd you ask? Alyssa spun in a circle with her arms out for balance. Alyssa, if I bring you something, do you think you could copy it? Make me a new one? Me? Nah, probably not. But my dad, he can make just about anything. Did you know he was a machinist in the Navy? He had to fabricate replacement parts for ships. He did it for them at sea. He taught me almost a quarter of what I know about making stuff. She smiled and her freckled cheeks pinched up again. Okay, I'll be right back. John hurried back to his room. He put on the eye patch and he returned to Caribbean. The Dragon of Plunder rested on its side. The hull was exposed to the air for the repair crews. John found the broken axle to the ship's wheel among the scattered parts on the shore. Man, they got a lot to replace, John thought. Looking at the assortment of beams, ropes, planks, and more. Hopefully the shipwreck on the sandbar isn't totally rotted, he thought. The axle was heavier than John expected. He pulled off the eye patch and he teleported back to his room. The heavy iron axle came with him. He stuffed the eye patch in his pocket and he ran back downstairs. He ran out the driveway and he ran over to show Alyssa the iron axle. Where'd you get that? Her eyes opened curiously at the broken metal. It's for my essay, he said. It looks almost new, other than being broken, she said. I would imagine something that old would be rusted to bits by now. John nearly blurted out that it was a replacement, or a replicant, from a more recent ship, but he caught himself. Too many lies. He couldn't lie to Alyssa, too. She was one of his oldest and closest friends. John took a deep breath and he said, I can teleport through time. Right. And me and the president are pen pals, except the president never writes back. Alyssa crossed her arms and tapped her foot on the ground. I'll prove it, John said. Prove what? I'll prove that I can travel through time. Go for it, John. She kept her arms crossed and raised an eyebrow. Okay, but not here. I'll do it in your garage. Come on. He vaulted the fence and he ran into her garage. She followed him with a slow skip. Watch the door, John said. I'll be right back with proof. He pulled on the eye patch, and he was back on the beach in the Caribbean. None of the scattered debris on the beach looked particularly promising as a way to prove he'd gone to the past. There has to be something on the ship. John climbed the net onto the sideways dragon of plunder. Without the crew pulling the ship, it was easier to cross the tilted mainmast. He went into the captain's quarters. A flintlock pistol? Or a sword? He stopped when he saw the curled chart on the floor. Perfect. Chart in hand, John returned to the present. Alyssa stood speechless, her mouth hanging open, her eyes wide enough that John worried they might fall out of her head. Look, I brought these charts from the pirate ship. John unrolled them for her. This is where my mom went. She went to the past. She climbed in a treasure chest and it took her back in time. Alyssa poked John in the chest. What's that for? I just had to make sure you're real, not some kind of dream. Alyssa grabbed the charts from John's hands and ran them over to a workbench where she unfurled the charts to look at them. Amazing! She traced her finger along the outline of one of the islands. These are actual charts from a pirate ship. Yeah, that's what I told you. Alyssa turned on a wall-mounted monitor and brought up the maps on the internet. These pirate charts are a lot more accurate than I would have expected. Look, they're almost the same as modern charts. Alyssa! John said it louder and more urgently than expected. I wonder if these differences are from shifting depths over time, she continued, absorbed in the charts. John grabbed her by the shoulder. Alyssa! John glanced back at John. Can your dad make the part or not? It's kind of important. I need it. I need to get it back to my pirate friends. They're on an island. They're stuck. Leave it to me, Alyssa said. You're a lifesaver. John rolled up the charts and ran from the garage. Now he just needed to make a barter with more. John, does your dad know? Alyssa asked, and John skidded to a stop in the driveway. He shook his head no. Guilt at his hiding the truth from his dad hit John hard. He almost ran inside and confessed everything to his dad. No, too close to do that. Almost have Mom back. John shook his head no. No, you're the only one who knows, and you can't tell anyone. Alyssa, you have to keep this a secret. Cross my heart, hope to die. Alyssa's fingers traced an X over her heart. Stick a needle in my eye. She pulled her pigtails out to her side and stuck out her tongue. She crossed her eyes, making herself look like a cartoon character of death. One more thing, John said. What do you think a pirate would want in exchange for a treasure chest? Well, what's in the chest? Nothing. I don't know. $50? She shrugged. The storyteller better do better than $50.